I'm Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical psychotherapist with degrees in psychology, theology, and marriage and family therapy, a national certification in dialectical behavioral therapy, and a national certification in integrative mental health. In this video, I'm not looking to diagnose anyone. I'm only willing to offer insight into situations like these. Hello. Okay, so welcome to Wednesday. I saw this video that I was like, okay, I don't know how many people are aware of this. And, I've been posting up some extra videos on my show. Or on my channel, sorry. But this one I wanted to go over, I wanted to review. But before I do, let me say hi to a couple folks. Auntie is in here first. She says hi with the peace sign. Not feeling well, so she may not make it the whole way through. Cutting Up with the Joneses is here. Hey to you as well. These two folks are part of the best live tribe on YouTube, bar none. So those of you watching from the cloud, please feel free to say hello. You will be welcomed. And also shout out to the replay gang. So without further ado, let's look at this video.
The image that's going to pop above my head soon is 100% verified and real. And if you're like me, you might find it strange. And when I say strange, I mean affirming the beliefs you probably already started to generate over the last few years. Let me explain. If you're familiar with how macrocorporate capitalism has been set up here in America to slowly sift money from the working class, you're probably familiar with the Dodge v. Ford case of 1919. If you're not, quick summary. In 1914, Henry Ford instituted the $5 minimum day. And this was unprecedented at the time, nearly doubling the prior wage minimum. So people started leaving other companies like Dodge to go work for Ford. You can imagine the Dodge brothers didn't love this. But instead of matching by actually paying their people, they instead decided to buy some of the Ford Motor Company stock, sue the Ford Motor Company as shareholders, and state that because Ford was putting money into his employees and not to the profits of his shareholders, he was actually breaking the law. The court would rule in favor of the Dodge brothers and force Henry Ford to pay a special dividend payout to all of his investors because he was favoring the employee over them. And if you pull up images when searching for the 1919 Dodge v. Ford case, you'll find that the Dodge logo at the time of this court hearing was this.
Did y'all know that? Did you know that was the original Dodge Brothers logo? Now, if you look it up and you say, hey, is this the Star of David? They're like, oh, that's just coincidental. Like when you look it up on the Googler, it just says, oh, it's coincidental. But yeah, that's
the image.
That's their original. Let me take this down. Their original logo, if you can imagine. Why is it that now that we're looking into things, it's not all of them, but it's always them? Like, remember when I started saying that? When I started saying that phrase, like, it's becoming more and more and more and more and more and more. Like we just keep learning more and more. It's not all of them, but it's always them in everything that we look at. Hi, Vincent. Thanks for being here. Adrian says, let's go. Mel says, hi, Mags. Hi, Mel. And Kevin says, good day, Maggie, and everyone. Good day to you as well, Kevin. So, interesting, right? Interesting. It seems like if you go deep enough into American history, maybe we are an occupied country, but maybe we always have been. And he says the Great Awakening. Yeah, it's like the more we know, the more we're finding out, which is a little woo-woo almost. The way if you look deep enough, you find certain people. Like what was okay, so I was watching today. I did not save the video because somebody else sent it to me. But if you guys know about the Tulsa Race Massacre, I think it's called. The story goes that a young Black man, I don't think teenager, I think young Black man, I'm not positive. You guys can just correct me in the comments because I'm not remembering those details because I'm remembering a very important detail. Anyway, he got in an elevator with a white woman and then she screamed, and then you end up with this whole like massacre and stuff's bombed, and like it was insanity what went on and how many Black people were killed. But anyway, come to find out, it's possible she was a honeypot. It's possible she was dating him, and that supposedly she's one of the tiny hats. So I just watched that today. I have had no chance to look into it whatsoever at all. Okay, so I want to kind of go over one of the videos that I posted up this week and then another Facebook reel, because it is all connected. So this is my video, so I should be able to play it without worrying about copyright. So let's check it out. Obviously, I'm going to stop where I just can't hold myself and I need to interrupt.
When this woman was watching the Twin Towers burning from her apartment in New Jersey, she noticed 3 men on top of a van posing for pictures with the towers burning in the background.
And I could see that they were like happy. You know, they didn't look shocked to me. You know, they didn't look shocked.
The witness called police, who stopped the van hours later and arrested 5 men. All 5, it turns out, were Israeli. They were turned over to the FBI.
Do you guys remember that? Because I can remember the report of the celebrating and whatnot, and I can remember some reports about some folks in Egypt who were celebrating. I didn't see a ton of stuff, but I can remember how confused I was. Like, why were Israelis celebrating? Like, it made no sense to me whatsoever at that time. It was like a pure conundrum. Why? Unfortunately, now we probably know why. Unfortunately.
Sources tell ABC News during a check of national security databases, some of the men were listed as having had connections with Israeli intelligence. The men said they were just taking pictures at the time. They said they worked for a company called Urban Moving. The FBI obtained a search warrant for the company's offices. Not long after the arrests, the offices of Urban Moving were simply abandoned. Almost everything was left behind. In jail, the 5 Israelis were repeatedly interrogated and given lie detector tests.
Yuval Aviv is a counterterrorism advisor to the U.S. Congress, but was once a spy for Israel's Secret Service Mossad. He says Urban Moving was a front company for Israeli intelligence.
According to the FBI, 2 of those movers were identified as Mossad agents.
The driver of the moving van, Sivan Kurzberg. We are Israeli. We are not your problem. Your problems are our problems. The Palestinians are the problem.
FBI reports confirmed that the men were not taking somber pictures of a horrific event. When their 76 pictures...
Now, I don't know if you guys can see this, but right here in the middle, and this was how the video was, so it's really hard to read, but an Israeli employee of Urban, meaning Urban Movers, said, give us 20 years and we'll take over your media, your country. So this is back during 9/11. This is something that when they were being interrogated, something that they said.
Were developed, they revealed the men had indeed been celebrating, smiling, hugging each other, and high-fiving. One of the pictures even featured Sivan Kurzberg holding a lighter up with the burning tower in the background. They lied to the police about where they had been that morning. They were carrying plane tickets for immediate departure to different places around the globe. The FBI confirmed that 2 of the men had ties to Israeli intelligence and came to suspect that they had indeed been on a mission for the Mossad. The FBI reports show how the men gave confused and often conflicting accounts of when and how they learned about what was happening and when they arrived at the parking lot. Oded Elner even said they had arrived there shortly after 8 a.m., which would have been 45 minutes before the attacks even began. This is in line with one of the eyewitnesses that had placed their Urban Moving Systems van at the parking lot at 8 a.m. They were immediately transferred to federal custody, held for 71 days, and then deported back to Israel.
If you notice, like one of them refused the lie detector test for 10 weeks, but then failed it.
Don't worry, they were just spying on Arab terrorists.
And while the FBI or certain sources might believe that, in fact, they were Israeli intelligence, they don't believe that the U.S. was a target, that they were actually investigating Muslim groups.
Right. Right. Sure. Absolutely. They were investigating Muslim groups, which is how these Muslim groups went ahead and took out the Twin Towers, right? Because they were doing such a bang up job. Wild, huh? Wild. So interesting is what I can say. Kevin says the follow-up interview they gave after being released by America and sent back to Israel. I haven't seen that. I have not seen that. Oh, Stacy says she does remember hearing about it too. Yeah. And were you guys confused? Like, I was so confused. Like, Jewish people are good people and Israel is our ally. And, you know, listen, I think had they not just gone way too frickin' far with their takeover of Palestine, we literally would not know 90% of the stuff that we have figured out since then. Because when you start to look, you're finding out more and more and more and more and more. Even about like assassination attempts here, assassinations here, false flags here. Like, we're finding out so much. Okay, I have one more video, one more reel that I want to show you guys. These Wednesday shows are just going to be pretty short, unless the video happens to be long. But I just wanted to go over these few. And you may have noticed that my Sunday shows are going to start being every other Sunday. Going to be doing a lot of traveling. And so I'm going to do every other Sunday shows. They're probably going to be a bit longer, a bit bulkier. And the Wednesday shows will probably be a little bit quicker, more review shows, but they're all moving towards the same end. And if you haven't seen the video that I made that said this is the most important show you'll ever watch, be sure to watch that because everything plays into it. Everything. Adrian said the world was a much different place and we had no clue who the actual enemies were. 100%. 100%. Okay, so I just want to show you one more quick video. Let me get it pulled up here. Okay.
Abraham Lincoln printed millions in government-issued notes, bypassing European banks to fund the Civil War. 5 days after the war ended, he went to Ford's Theater. President McKinley supported the gold standard, while others favored a central bank with a flexible currency. It wasn't long before an anarchist was let into his rally. 3 business titans allegedly opposed the creation of an American central bank. An unsinkable ship owned by J.P. Morgan. He was supposed to go with them, but canceled last minute. That ship was called the Titanic, and the Federal Reserve was founded the next year. Senator Huey Long rallied against the Fed and tried to cap America's wealth. He was shot inside Louisiana's capital. His gunman was killed instantly, with no autopsy, lost evidence, and conflicting ballistics. Congressman Louis McFadden accused the Federal Reserve of high treason for causing the Great Depression. He collapsed after a banquet. The official story? Heart attack. JFK signed an executive order giving the Treasury power to issue silver certificates and bypass Fed-issued notes. You know how this ends. Congressman Larry McDonald, a fierce critic of all global banking elites, boarded Korean Airlines Flight 007. The plane accidentally veered into Soviet airspace. All 269 souls died, and Moscow held the black boxes for a decade before releasing edited data. Thomas Sankara, president of Burkina Faso, rejected IMF and World Bank loans. Shortly after, he was assassinated in a coup. His successor immediately took the loans. By the year 2001, very few countries didn't have Western-controlled central banks. Afghanistan and Iraq were two of them. All they needed was an excuse. The ruler of Libya, Gaddafi, proposed a gold-backed African dinar to replace the dollar for oil. NATO intervened in Libya's civil war, and Gaddafi was killed. Libya got a new central bank.
So if you guys are listening and not watching, it says in the year 2000, there were 9 countries without a Rothschild-owned or controlled central bank. Afghanistan, Iraq, Sudan, Libya, Cuba, North Korea, Iran, and Syria. Now, what are the countries we're constantly trying to liberate? Wild, huh? Yeah, that's the end of that video. Okay, so Kevin says, what about the art class that had access to the Twin Towers, the floors just below the impact area before the incident? Apparently they were small hat art students. Oh my goodness. I had not heard that. Nothing surprises me anymore though. I'm going to say nothing surprises me anymore about this stuff. Oh, and then think about like at the Twin Towers, there were some rich guys. Was it Letnick? I might have to look it up, or somebody can look it up for me, who just didn't go to work that day, just took his kid to school instead of to the daycare or whatever, and just happened to take out all this tons of insurance on his properties in the Twin Towers. Just everything out of character, out of normal, and small hats. Let's see. Adrian says, JP Morgan didn't show up, just like Letnick didn't show up to the towers on 9/11. Thank you. Nobody has to look that up. Adrian and I were thinking about the same thing. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, is like, how did you know? And then you think about Letnick's connection to Epstein too. Kevin says, apparently it was not the Titanic, but its sister ship. I heard that it wasn't the Titanic, and now I can't remember the name of the sister ship. Like 9/11, it was also an insurance job. Insurance paid twice on the Twin Towers. Yeah, and didn't Letnick say something like he negotiated more money from the insurance company so that no money would have to come out of his pocket to help the families of his staff members who died? Hi, Leon. Thanks for being here. So I think, some of that is just getting more and more into some of this research. I'm always going to say it's not all of them, but we're getting to the point where it's always them. And as you've heard me say, it is parasitic behavior. I think we have, personally, I think that we have a metaphysical or sort of egregore political parasitic type people who are parasite, like taking all the resources of the earth, raping and pillaging the earth, raping and pillaging people, taking over continents, like parasitic behavior. But then I think also in the Western world, we have a problem with actual parasites that we need to take care of. And if somehow those are connected, I don't know, but I think maybe they are. I do. And I think maybe they have something to do with disclosure happening soon. There's a doctor out there who's talking about that he's seen some of the documents that the government has, and how they're very close to admitting not only is it these UAPs, but then actual aliens. So I think all of it is connected. I really do. Adrian says now Letnick is the Secretary of Commerce. Of course he is. Leanne says they're worse than parasites. Well, I mean, there's some pretty bad parasites out there. Hey, Snowman, thanks for being here. I haven't seen you in a long time. Right on. Okay, and you came in on a short one, so I'm sorry. I really, really hope that you all can make it to the show this Sunday. It has to do with COVID. And if you think COVID's gone, it's not. It has to do with the connection between schizophrenia, autism, and COVID, and some information that they kept from you that raises your immunities against COVID. And boy, has this stuff been suppressed. So I recently did a show on COVID so that we could have some background information, some base knowledge on, what they told us and what the research actually shows. And now we're going to be talking about that connection between autism, schizophrenia, and COVID. And it's going to be a wild ride. There's going to be some science there. I'm going to talk about spike proteins and DNA and those kind of things. But I really, really hope people can come, because I think we're going to have another round. I think it's going to come back around. I know that they tried to float the idea of the hantavirus making its round. I kind of wondered if we weren't going to get another animal flu, because we had the bird flu or the avian flu. Then we had the pig flu. So I thought that's what's going to happen. But I honestly think they're going to go with COVID again. I think that's what they're going to do. But at the end of the day, all of those are viruses, all of them. And so the information that I'm going to give you this Sunday is going to be applicable to a lot. Stacy says, no, it is not. Adrian says, we programmed your DNA with the vax. What's the worst that could happen? Right. I even was looking up some stuff because, I love to fight with ChatGPT and prove it wrong and then make it apologize to me. I'm a little bit sadistic against technology like that. But I was having a conversation about the vaccine and about DNA. And, it was telling me that the mRNA in the vaccine cannot affect DNA. And I had to prove it wrong. And it said, oh, well, yeah, if you look at it that way. I just love proving ChatGPT wrong. Is that wrong of me? But, I think about a lot of times these large language models are learning from the people that they're talking to, right? And so if I, even just as one person, am proving it wrong and showing it correct information and making it change the answers that it gives, that's a positive. That's a step in the right direction. Leanne says, these people are not that bad in the fearful type of way. I look at everything and how they constructed the framework of the Tea Party system. Social duties of gender has made them safe. Oh yeah, Adrian says, don't forget the ticks and alpha gal. Are you talking about where they were, no, that's mosquitoes. Never mind. I was thinking about certain mosquitoes and how it's possible that the government purposefully put Lyme disease in mosquitoes. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Kevin says, I would like to have a discussion on the differences between schizophrenia and receiving the spirit from God. Oh, I've had those conversations with people. I've taught about that in undergrad classes. I can make myself a note if that's something other people would be interested in. There's really a fine line between madness and miracles. And it's very interesting. And I have a lot of experience working with people who have schizophrenia and different forms of psychosis. And I've had to question myself and other clinicians as well. Like, gosh, I don't know. And then I also have a family member who has some interesting things that happen. So, that might be trying to find paper to write myself a note. Oh, here we go. Post-it notes. That's what I needed. I rearranged my office. So, which is where the studio is. So now I don't know where anything is. Okay. Okay. Schizophrenia and receiving spirit from God. Okay. I'll see if I can't put something together. It might just be a free flow conversation, literally, because I have 30 years of experience in the mental health field. My very first job in the mental health field at 19 years old was at an inpatient hospital. My very first patient, I met her as she was running down the hall, taking her clothes off, jumped up on the nurse's desk, pissed, and then jumped down and started doing ballet moves. And she was roughly 350 pounds and just kept going ever since then. I've been a clinically licensed therapist for 23 years, I think now. Yeah. So I have so many stories. But again, like I used to teach this. And so it's probably a good conversation to have. Leon says the way they separated banking and people's jobs are how they separated this culture going through gaslighting. Oh, yeah. Kevin says, yeah, the Lyme disease is in ticks. Okay, maybe that's what I was thinking of. Auntie said, yes, she would like to know about schizophrenia. And Kevin, I think I may even expand it, like receiving messages, whether that's the Holy Spirit, God, some sort of deity, your guardian angel, those kind of things. How do you tell the difference? And even sometimes your intuition might come across a little psychotic. So it's kind of interesting. Kevin says, no, how they plan to replace the Spirit of God with man-made 6G. Oh, yeah, like that. What is that? It's the God something. It's a machine that the government has that they can play sounds into your ears through resonance. Like they shoot resonance at you. You know how like those headphones that you have that you literally put on the phone on the bone on the back of your ear, and it's resonance that makes you hear. It's not actually a speaker. So yeah, I've heard about that. Hi, JB Designs. Thanks for being here. He says, I think people romanticize World War II because it was the last time the U.S. was the good guy. And ever since then, our government has been exposed to be the villains. Yeah, and I think they've been the villains the whole time. They didn't even want to get involved in World War II. Adrian says, yeah, we weren't even the good guys then. We're on the same page today. Hey, Obel, thanks for being here. Oh, yeah, Voice of God. That's what it's called. The Voice of God machine. I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, so that's a super interesting thing. And I talked about that a little bit when I talked about on the show for Project Bluebeam, because I think they might use some of that technology with Project Bluebeam. Maybe. I don't know. That kind of plays into too. Next Wednesday, I'm going to talk about a little more on MK Ultra because this new hearings that they just had, they showed that Charles Manson and Jack Ruby were victims of MK Ultra. So wow. Right? Learning more and more and more. And I think even more is coming out about how if any of you were in like gifted programs, in elementary and middle school, like in the 80s and 90s, you were probably being recruited by the Gateway program. That's the Gateway program for the GATE program, which is what they used for MK Ultra. And so before you go, oh my gosh, no, oh yes, you were. You probably were. So I'm hoping to find there's some different videos and stuff that say, if you did this, you were recruited by the Gateway Project. And I got pulled out for these specific testing and advanced skills trainings and different things like that, as did my son. So yeah, interesting. Oh yeah, Adrian, yeah, voice of God. Oh yeah, okay, so Adrian put a link up there if you guys want to look into that, the voice of God against demonstrators. Yeah, Vincent, Jerusalem syndrome is more of a mental illness than a religion. Yeah. Leanne says gifted programs target children, and I was in gifted programs, BGS, and I talk about it all the time. I'm considered a reject. I wanted to get into sports. Like I didn't have time for that. I joined the choir and I got into sports, and just it just became not interesting, and so I stopped trying. So I don't, eventually I was let out, but mostly because I kept not going. So Belle said, Maggie, this is off topic question. I was interested in getting a degree in anthropology, religious studies, or linguistics. Oh my goodness. Are you going to ask me for a recommendation of a college? Oh, it looks like he took the message back. So we'll wait for him to rewrite that. Because I would say there's a really good way to get a linguistics degree, but Belle, I'm just going to assume you're a young man. Okay. I have no idea how old you are. And I don't know that I would actually recommend this in Trump's America. But if you want a linguistics degree, take an ASVAB. If you can score exceedingly high on an ASVAB, then look into joining the Air Force to be a cryptologic linguist, because then they will pay for your training programs. You can learn multiple languages if you can learn them. Obviously, the government pays for them, and then you end up with like a bachelor's degree at some point if you have so many of them. But I think you have to go through a school to like show all your credits. But then you can use your GI Bill to get a master's degree to further your linguistics, or add anthropology or social work or one of those kind of things. That is a way to do it if you were a young man. But again, I don't know that I would do that in Trump's America. Because, you get free insurance, you get all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? Like you get housing, and there's a lot that you get with it. But man, the military right now is just, I don't know that that's the place to be. He says, no, I'm a mathematics major, but no, I'm not young. Okay. If you're not young, you said anthropology. Where are we at? Religious studies or linguistics. I would say, number one, do not go to a Christian university for any of those degrees. I took some of my theology classes at a Christian university, and what I learned there was different than what I learned at a secular university. I think for an anthropology degree, I would look for schools who have the ability to send you to different places in the world for like your practicum studies, for projects, for different things like that. Like, is this a well-known and well-accredited school with enough money and resources that they can like send you to these different programs around the globe, these different digs and different things like that. As far as linguistics, I don't really know, other than the quick and dirty way is the military. But I mean, they accept people up to 43. So, I mean, I'm sure you could still go in if you wanted to. I think just do some research on I think anthropology is probably going to be enough of an umbrella where you can specialize in some religious studies and linguistics underneath anthropology. So that might be the umbrella that you want to go in. Leon said, it's weird, but they altered the ASVAB scoring system. That's not surprising, as much as they've altered recently, right? Okay. Thank you all for being here. I'm glad to have this discussion at the end too. I guess I generally don't stay on a super long time for people to ask questions or to talk about different things. So I'm glad that we were able to have this discussion. That makes me happy. I really hope that you guys enjoy your Wednesday. And please, please, please come back on Sunday for the schizophrenia, autism, and COVID connection, because I think your mind's going to be blown. So until then, I'm going to show you a picture of my dog. Please like the video if you haven't already. It really helps the algorithm to know what kind of things you like. Share where you think it's appropriate, especially to someone who you think needs to hear it. And last, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you want to break down complex concepts that make the esoteric not so teric, helping you on your journey to become your most authentic self. Let's uncover the universe together.